Hi, I'm James from Chaosium. When I sat down with John Wick the other day, he gave us an update on what exactly is happening in the world of 7th Sea. I'm going to jump across to that interview in just a moment, but first, remember to subscribe to the Chaosium YouTube channel. It helps us out and it lets us make more content like this. Thanks.
The very first question that I always ask myself and I tell writers to ask is, why do I care? If you can, like, there's a whole bunch of different settings that have all like a lot of detail and stuff. But if there's no reason for me to like care about it at all, I mean, who so what? I deeply care about the United States Civil War. I care about it a lot because I think it's a defining moment in in the history of the United States, and it's a profound moment for like a lot of different reasons. But there are people in the world or even in the United States who do not care. There's no reason for them to care. I have to tell you, more importantly, I have to show you why you should, even though this event took place 2 centuries ago, right? Almost 3 centuries ago now. But when people talk about like 300 years ago, there was this war. Okay, why do I care about this war? Why does my character right now? How does that war influence my character? And if you don't put it in there, then it's masturbation. You're going, I'm making a history, and people are gonna, you know, it was one of the stumbling blocks that I went through when reading Lord of the Rings, which has all of this history. That's great. Why do I care? I
So, what do you.
here are 800 names for this elven names for this tree. Great. That's a lot of typing. I can skip it and get right onto the story, right? It's what Elmore Leonard said in his essay "Enough with the Hoop-to-Doodle," which is an essay on writing. And he has all these different rules, which is never start a book with weather. Right, is the first rule, and he's like, nobody cares about the weather. Right? And one of the rules is skip the part that the readers tend to not read. Skip the part where don't write the part that readers don't read. And that little piece of advice has always been like stuck in my head.
So, as an expert in the TTRPG writing field, as opposed to maybe where a lot of other expert writers will have a large part of their professional work, is there a section of TTRPG writing that you think fits that definition of the part that the readers don't read? What part of a TTRPG book gets skipped?
The part that doesn't affect their characters at all. So, I mean, for me, and I can only really speak for me, right? There are a ton of dungeon crawls that it's like, why is my character here? Well, you're here for the money. Oh, so I'm here because I'm greedy. Okay, so my character is greedy, I guess. It says chaotic good, but I guess I'm greedy because I'm here for the money. What? So there's a disconnect there for me. It's like, why am I here? It's a joke I always make when people, whenever I play games that have dungeon crawls, games. We're not going to mention any names, but initials are D&D. Um, it's like we're in a dungeon. My character will complain the whole time we're there. Like, I could be sitting at the tavern, I could be in front of a fire, I could be having roast pork in front of me right now with a good wine and great company and singing songs and stomping my feet and all that. And here I am sitting in this dusty, dingy, moldy dungeon with sentient fungus that's trying to eat me. Why am I here? Why do I care about any of this? Right? If a single gold piece, as the Dungeon Master's Guide says, if a single gold piece can feed a family of 4 for a year, as soon as I get 500 gold pieces, I'm out. I'm done. How much rich do you have to be in order to live a life of luxury? I mean, not much, not much. So again, it's the ask yourself, how are the players going to engage with this? How is it going to talk to them and tell them this is why you care about this? Because if your adventure doesn't do that, if your adventure is you're going to go on this thing to rescue a princess, why am I doing this? Is it because the princess or the prince or whoever, the person that we're trying to rescue, is actually a good person and is like so let's say we're in a kingdom where the king is corrupt, but the child, the princess person, is actually good and just and waiting for the parent to die, right? So that they can take over the kingdom and do all of these social reforms, do tax reforms, do, you know, all these kinds of things. And then the princess, whoever, gets kidnapped, and the evil princess person is going to now take charge. Okay, now I care, especially if the GM has set up interactions with this character before. So, because that's the key to game mastering, is step one, get them to care about something that doesn't exist. An NPC, a bar, a tavern, a kingdom, whatever. Get them to care about it. Step two, put it in jeopardy. And then watch them jump. Step three, because they will. You know that whole story about how you've come up with this incredible NPC that the players are supposed to meet in a tavern, right? And the NPC isn't there yet. And they go and talk to Bob the bartender, and they love Bob. They think Bob is the best thing ever because you give Bob a funny voice and he's like, here you go. First one's for free, you know, blah, blah, blah. And he's fantastic. And you've done your job. You've made them care about Bob. Well, that NPC that was supposed to come in and give them the mission, screw that. It's all about Bob now. It's all about Bob because that's what they care about. They care about Bob. So instead of this NPC giving them the mission, have Bob give them the mission, because Bob is the one that they care about. And you put Bob in danger, and now, I mean, you've seen it happen. You've seen what happens when you're a GM and you put an NPC that the players love in jeopardy. It's on now. It's on. They're gonna march through fire to protect Bob, right? So that's what I mean by engage the players, is that you have to find something that is going to get them to care, and then you put it in jeopardy, and that's magic. Then you have plot.
So, as a writer, when you are preparing your scenario and you know that you're going to be relying so heavily on potentially improvisational elements or on the whims of the players, how do you imbue your scenarios with that kind of attitude or that kind of preparation? As a writer, how do you prepare for all the chaos?
You don't. You don't. You do what Machiavelli said, and Sun Tzu said. He said, "You don't have a plan, have contingencies." So, I have a host of NPC archetypes, of character archetypes that are based on my player base. That I know that, for example, my partner Jessica, whenever she plays in a game, if there is a monster in the game, she will try to befriend the monster. And so, for example, I created a scenario. I was running a fantasy game. I created a scenario where her character was an orc fighter who was also a baker, and so everybody came to, and she had a little cart, and everybody came to buy her pastries and things and all that kind of stuff. And then one day, this tall, slender, uh, pale skinned, dark haired woman with ruby red lips and dark eyes shows up after dark and says, "The count in the castle in the other county would like you to cater his birthday party." And so so everybody was like, "Oh, it's a vampire." Right? So they went. She was like, "Yes, I will do that." So, because I knew she would, and she got all of her pastries together and she brought them to the birthday party. And as they're going through the county, they're stopping in villages and things to get supplies as they travel. And wherever they go, the villagers always talk about the count, like, the count is a wonderful person. The Count is great. Trust the Count as they're going, and of course, we're building tension, and when they get there, it is his birthday party, and they're the only ones there because he is a vampire, and everyone is terrified of him. And his assistant, whom they met, has set up this thing so that people can come and meet him and find out, I may be a vampire, but I'm not a bad person. And so they're the only ones there. So they meet the vampire. He's friendly. He's gregarious. He overpays her, and he thanks her for staying and says, "I understand if you don't want to stay in the castle overnight, but please feel free to take advantage of my rooms. I have plenty of them, and all that." And as they leave, the villagers are now saying, "Did you meet the Count?" And they're like, "Yeah." And he said, "Oh, we had bandits last month. The bandits came in and were raiding the food stores. The Count took care of that." And oh yeah, we had trolls come in, and the trolls were eating our cattle. The Count took care of that. And so the Count becomes an NPC in the game that now they have a reason to like him, they have a reason to trust him. And when they got in trouble in the city, like there's a whole undead horde coming into the city, they called the Count, and he showed up. It was, so it's really about, like, have a list of archetypes of characters that you can pull from and go, oh, I need the friendly thief. Oh, I need the cursed noble. Oh, I need the so and so. And you just, they're in your GM toolbox. You just take them out when you need them and give them a name, give them a couple of quirks. But more importantly, and this is what I do, I have the players say things that are true about the NPC. And that accomplishes two things. Number one, I don't have to think of anything. That's good. But number two, it tells me what the players want out of that NPC. Because if they say things like, the Count wants to get married. Okay, clearly that player wants to be involved either, in the Count getting married, or being romantically involved with the Count, or something else, right? So letting the players come up with things that are true about NPCs lets your players emotionally invest, and also relieves you of a lot of planning.